and welcome. I'm Leah Sandoval, and I'm here today with John Kilroy, CEO and Chairman of Kilroy Realty Corporation. I'm excited to be here not only as the Vice Chair of Economic Development for the Hollywood Chamber, but also as Senior Vice President of Asset Management for Kilroy for the LA region. John, thank you for being here today and welcome. I'd love to start off the conversation in taking a look back at last year. You had a lot of points that you made. You had a very powerful message that you delivered. And I would love to know from your perspective, where do you think the state of Hollywood is today?
Well, first of all, thank you, Leah, and thank you to the Chamber for inviting me back. Last year, we talked about homelessness, and I took a pretty firm issue on that. And of course, security is related to that issue. And that's not the Hollywood we've all worked so hard to create. I think of all of the decades that people have put their back into advancing Hollywood for everybody, for merchants, for families, for residents, and for those that are in office buildings and so forth. And of course, we often confuse the state of Hollywood with the state of the content producers. And through this COVID period, what we've seen is a massive increase in the folks that produce content, like Disney and Amazon and Apple and Netflix and so on and so forth. And their fortunes have gone up tremendously because people are staying at home watching movies. But that success does not equate to Hollywood success. Hollywood is a living, vibrant place. It's apartments, it's residences, it's businesses, it's the merchants, it's tourism, it's food. It's all these things that make it so wonderful. This year, there's been some progress for sure, and I think there's some people that really need to be recognized. Councilman Mitch O'Farrell has done a banner job. Councilman Joe Busciano, who's going to be running for mayor, understands security. He's done a wonderful job. And the city council president also, Nuri Martinez, has done a great job in pushing legislation through. So where are we? It's not a homelessness issue. It's a homelessness crisis. It still remains a crisis, but there has been some progress. If you look at Mitch O'Farrell, the councilman for Hollywood, he's led a lonely fight, and I give him very high marks for personal conviction and character. Without him, we wouldn't see the recent passage of rules with regard to homelessness. They didn't go far enough, but that was a lonely fight. Sure, COVID created a mess for everybody. But now, how we define ourselves will be how we get out of this mess. So if we want to have a vibrant business community, we need to have people back to work. We need to have merchants making money and selling goods. We need to have tourists wanting to come back, and we need to enforce the rule of law. So my message still is pretty tough, but I really do compliment the courage of Mitch O'Farrell and others who've worked so hard to pass the legislation they have passed. I would just say that we need to go further.
Thank you, John. Those are really great points that you bring up. And as we all know, Kilroy is one of the leading developers up and down the West Coast. We just expanded into the Austin market. What can you tell us about these other markets and the visibility into those other markets? What are they doing well, and what can we bring into Hollywood to make it better?
Well, it's true that California has lost a little bit of its golden shine over the last few years, and with that, some of the big cities, San Francisco and LA. It's also interesting to note that other cities are doing really well and are very shiny, using that example, like San Diego is doing extremely well. And you know what separates good from bad, or a good business climate from a bad business climate, is, there are a number of things. Tax policy, is it livable? We've talked a lot about livable. It's hard to be livable when you have the homeless issues and so forth. Tax policy is really important. It impacts people, it impacts companies. We've had a lot of crazy policy that's been put out there by the state legislature that industry has to fight. And I know there's a number of propositions that are going to come up in 2022 that we're all going to have to fight to keep California working for everybody and vibrant with regard to the economy. Austin's gotten an awful lot of press over the last few years. They're doing a lot of things right. They're attractive for business. They're attractive for residents. They're very much about law and order in Texas, which I think is a good thing. And they provide predictability for businesses. They have a much better tax situation in Texas than we do in California. They have, I think, much better leadership at the state level and at the city level than we have. I mean, I've made no bones about it over the years that I think that California is extremely poorly run, and I think LA is poorly run, and that creates real problems.
So, John, what does that mean in regard to Kilroy and their thinking about Hollywood and California in general?
Well, I'm bullish long-term on California, and I'm bullish long-term on Hollywood, because I think we will get this right, because the consequences of not getting it right are so dire. As a company, we've started $1 billion of new projects in California this year. A lot of that's life science, and some of it's technology. We just finished in Hollywood the On Vine campus for a major content producer. And within that project, we finished the Jardine, which is a 20-story luxury apartment complex. And we're actually doing very well on the leasing there. So, you know, I'm sort of glass half full kind of person. And I want to remain that way. But I'm taking a very hard look at how the politicians and the folks that are appointed by politicians, how they behave. And I just make a comment about the entertainment industry. It's part of what defines Hollywood. This is the content capital of the world. This is where movies were first made. This is where so much music has found its voice. And I think it would be very foolish for politicians to think that the content producers can't move out of the state or out of our city. They can't. And once one does, others may follow. So we have all this infrastructure and history of creativeness and innovation, and we should foster that. Everybody's trying to compete with us, and many people are competing very well. So let's not lose our edge there. When you're ahead, stay ahead.
John, the theme of this year's summit is Hollywood on the world stage. However, taking a broader look, I know many people, myself included, are very excited that the Super Bowl will be hosted here. It's a tremendous opportunity to showcase the city. It's happening in February, so it's coming quick. There's a number of other major sporting events that will take place between then and 2028 when the Olympics come to LA. As a world-class sailor, would love to get your thoughts on this.
I love sport, and I think everybody loves sport, or at least loves to be a spectator. And you're right, we have all these extraordinary events coming to LA, and we should be very prideful of that. And we want to show put our best foot forward for all of them. I can't imagine that people are going to want to go to the theater or other places if they have a security issue. Let's think about these sporting events. They bring in massive numbers of people. They go to the game. They stay at hotels. They go to restaurants. They go to the theme parks. They go to motion picture productions. They go to other entertainment venues. They spend a lot of money. It creates a lot of tax revenue for the city. And it presents LA, hopefully, in a very positive way. Are we going to present LA as the vibrant, wonderful city it is, or are we going to present it as a city that has security issues and a homeless problem that's growing exponentially? What are we going to do? We have a choice. And I hope we make the right choice. And I hope we make the right choice not just because of these sporting events, but because it's the right thing for those of us who live in LA and work in LA. We want those things. We can't just do it for those events. Those have got to be things that happen for all of us day in and day out. You know, I think of the Olympics. If there was ever the world's biggest show, that's it. 200 countries participate, 10,000, I think it is, athletes arrive. something like 6 million visitors. I mean, that's extraordinary. Where else, what else is as big as that? You know, let's use that and the FIFA World Cup and the Masters and the NFL Super Bowl and of course, we always have the Rose Bowl, which is a magnificent event, and all these other great things we do. Let's use those in our minds with the politicians as citizens to think, we have a great city. We wouldn't have been awarded those events if we weren't considered a great city. We've had a real setback with COVID. We've had a real setback with bad policy. We have a real setback with a DA who is not doing his job. But we can change all that. We can change it. By working together, we can change it. And if you think about teams in athletic endeavors, whether it's football or whether it's the Olympic teams and so forth, they have to work together. They have to improve. They have to constantly reassess what they're doing, how they can do it better, and how they're competing with the other teams. City of LA is no different. It has to think about how it's competing with other cities, whether they be in California or whether they be outside of California. The state has to do the same thing. And we as citizens, as voters, and as people with stakeholders in the city of LA should demand of our politicians, demand of them that we be competitive. I'd like to think we should be number one, and there's no reason we can't be. But it's going to take some conviction, and it's going to take a lot of effort by those of us who are voters. Vote smartly.
John, thank you so much for being here today. As always, it's been a very lively conversation, and we so much appreciate your insight. Would love to know, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, the city needs to do some things. I mentioned earlier about we need to really push further on the homelessness cleanup and get these folks that need help into proper care and a proper living situation and off the streets. We need to increase the pace of housing production without question. We have a housing crisis, and it can't just be for the luxury renter. We need to finish the Hollywood Community Plan that's been out there for 10 plus years. I understand it's recently been put on hold. Maybe I'm a cynic, but I would imagine that's probably because of elections coming up and they don't want to be put themselves at political risk. This again is why so many politicians I find to be unacceptable in the way they conduct themselves. They are the public servants. They're supposed to do the public's work. I wish there were more Mitch O'Farrells and folks like that were actually willing to put themselves at risk and take on tough issues. I would encourage everybody, if it gets on the ballot, to vote to remove George Gascon as district attorney. He's not enforcing the laws. And then there's the business community and what we can do. Well, everybody's got to stand up in this election cycle. I hope people make good choices. If you have leaders, you feel the council person who represents you is not doing a good job, find somebody else. That's the democratic system that we have. Make your voices heard at the city and city hall. You got to take action. Don't just sit on your laurels. Don't just complain about things. Get out there and vote and take action. Bombard the airways. And on that note, we've given this some consideration at Kilroy, and it's as a result in part because of the need, but also in talking with other business leaders in and out of real estate, broad cross-section of leaders. We think we need to pester the airwaves to make things better. We need to hold politicians to a level of accountability that they haven't been held to for some time. And we're pledging to make resources available to help with whether it's a chamber or others, to make an easy to find website where the public can get information about some of the issues and what they can do about it. Because right now it's so confusing. it's overwhelming. Most of us are figuring out how to deal with COVID, how to reintroduce our kids back into school and sports, and deal with our own personal lives, and then navigating some of the things on our streets and whatnot. And so to have now a need to spend a lot more time dealing with political issues is a burden on all of us. So if we can ease that burden a little bit by making resources available where people can get some good independent thought, then we're happy to do it. But if I get anything across to our audience here, I'm a fighter, and I'm going to fight for what I think is going to make California a better place. I'm pro-California. I live in California. I was born in California. I'm fifth-generation Californian. So I'm here. I'm invested. The company's invested. We're going to stay invested. But we're going to fight because we have a stake in this state, and we have a stake in our communities, and we have a stake in our student body or our employee base. And we want things to be better for everybody. So we're going to fight to do that. So we're invested.